We have seen many great college football dynasties throughout the years of college football. I'm not just talking about recent memory, but we can go all the way back to the 1950s because the Oklahoma Sooners built an incredible dynasty during that decade. Over in an 11-year period, Bud Wilkinson's Sooners tallied a 107-8 record with 4 undefeated seasons, 11 conference titles, and 3 national championships. They also had an impressive 47-game win streak from 1953 to 1957, which remains an NCAA record to this day. We have seen many other great dynasties like the Miami Hurricanes and USC in the early to mid 2000s. I mean, the list is long, but those are just a few to name. But more recently, we have possibly seen the greatest college football dynasty of all time, which was the Nick Saban era of Alabama from 2008 to 2024. And I'm not going to go over all the accolades of this Alabama team led by Nick Saban because the list is long and all of us know that Nick Saban might just be the greatest head coach of all time. But I'll keep it short and simple, and I'll say 6 national championships for Nick Saban and Alabama may cement Nick Saban as the greatest college football coach of all time, and it definitely cements Alabama as the greatest college football team of all time. Alabama was already a great dynasty. They had a great 1960s with Bear Bryant as head coach, but Nick Saban was just the icing on the cake for that Alabama dynasty, and I think Alabama still has many great seasons to come. But as we head into the 2024 college football season, I think we are starting to realize that there is a new dynasty in college football, and there is a new top-tier elite head coach and recruiter. And no, I'm not talking about Steve Sarkisian and Dan Lanning. I know they're doing great things, and a lot of other top-tier coaches are coming along and becoming great coaches. But in my opinion, no coach is quite on the level of the Georgia Bulldogs head coach Kirby Smart. And today I wanted to talk about why Kirby Smart may just build one of the greatest dynasties in college football history, and why he will continue to keep this Georgia team near the top of college football throughout the 2020s and possibly even longer. But of course, as always, before we get into the video, let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel, because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel, so definitely consider subscribing. And also consider joining my Discord server down in the description below. But without further ado, let's get into the video. Before we look at the rise of this Georgia team, let's go back and look at where this team was before the Kirby Smart era. And believe it or not, Georgia hasn't actually missed a bowl game since 1996. They have been a consistently good team for so long, but they have only won 2 national titles, which was in 1942 and 1980. But since 2000, Georgia still might be one of the best college football teams just because of how consistent they have been, even if they haven't won a natty. The Mark Richt era from 2001 to 2015 was definitely a great era of football played by the Georgia Bulldogs, as they had 10 double-digit win seasons. Mark Richt had an overall record of 145-51 head coaching at Georgia. The only Georgia head coach with more wins was Vince Dooley, who had won 201 games from 1964 to 1988. Georgia has definitely had a winning culture for a very long time. We've seen many legendary players like Champ Bailey, Terrence Edwards, David Pollack, and many other greats for this team. This Georgia team has had so many double-digit win seasons, but still cannot find a way to win another national championship since 1980. And it seemed long overdue for this Georgia team to win a national title. But on December 6, 2015, we seen the beginning of something bigger, and former Alabama defensive coordinator Kirby Smart became the new head coach for the Georgia Bulldogs. Mark Richt's time was up after 15 pretty successful seasons at Georgia, but ultimately, he couldn't get the job done and win it all. So the question that people would be asking is if Kirby Smart was the right guy to get the job done. Could he carry on a winning culture at Georgia and possibly even help this Georgia team level up and contend for a national championship? And if we go back all the way to 1999, Kirby Smart was actually the admin assistant for Georgia, and then after taking many other short-term smaller coaching jobs, he came back to Georgia and he became the running backs coach in 2005. But that didn't last long, as he quickly became a safeties coach for the Miami Dolphins in the NFL in 2006. But from 2008 to 2015, we seen Kirby Smart take on a much bigger role, as he was the defensive coordinator to the greatest college football dynasty of all time, which was the Alabama Crimson Tide, and they were coached by the greatest college football coach of all time, Nick Saban. In Kirby Smart's time as defensive coordinator at Alabama, that Alabama team won 4 national championships, and Kirby Smart had become the highest paid defensive coordinator in college football on April 16, 2013. Kirby Smart's last season on the Alabama coaching staff was in 2015, when Alabama beat Clemson in the national championship. Up to this point, Kirby Smart hadn't been a head coach, but we all knew he was ready to do great things as a head coach, and we all knew the sky may just be the limit for Kirby Smart as a head coach. He learned a lot from Nick Saban, and he was going to bring a defensive-minded culture anywhere he went, and at the end of the day, defense wins championships. So he came back to Georgia, but this time it was for much bigger things, as he was the head coach. He wasn't a player, he wasn't a running backs coach, he wasn't an admin assistant, he was a head coach, and this was big for this Georgia team. Kirby Smart's first season as a head coach was for the Georgia Bulldogs in 2016. Kirby Smart earned his first victory as a head coach for Georgia when they beat a ranked North Carolina team 33-24. It was a pretty great start for the Kirby Smart era. We also seen Georgia beat a top 10 Auburn team that season. Ultimately, they only finished 8-5 in his first season, but all it took was one season for Kirby Smart to get comfortable at Georgia. And in 2017, this Georgia team started with their first 9-0 record since 1982, and they won the SEC East after a win over South Carolina. Kirby Smart also coached Georgia to their first SEC title win since 2005, and Georgia had the fourth 12-win season in school history. Georgia made the college football playoff that year and won a classic against Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl, and then they lost to Alabama in the national championship by 3 points. Kirby Smart was named the SEC Head Coach of the Year in 2017. Even though they lost in the national championship, it was the beginning of something bigger, and we all knew that. Kirby Smart continued to lead this team to great seasons. They had a lot of bumps along the road, and in 2018 they lost to Alabama again and just missed out on the college football playoffs, and then they lost their bowl game. And in 2019 they lost in the SEC championship yet again, but this time to LSU, and they missed out on the playoffs again. But in 2020 they had a shortened season and they went 8-2, and they lost to Alabama yet again. After coming so close time and time again and running into so many obstacles and not being able to win the biggest games and struggling to beat Alabama, but in 2021, Kirby Smart led Georgia to their first national championship win since 1980. They did lose to Alabama again in the SEC championship that season, but they got their revenge and they finally beat Alabama, and they beat Alabama in the biggest game of the season, which was the national championship when it mattered the most. And if you thought that was a one and done situation, then you were wrong, because in 2022 they would go back to back and they would beat TCU by 58 points to win another national championship. They avoided Alabama in the regular season and they ended up going undefeated the whole season. And Kirby Smart was the first head coach since Nick Saban in 2011 and 2012 to win back-to-back national championships. In 2023, they again lost to Alabama in the SEC championship, and that actually resulted in Georgia just missing out of the playoffs. A lot of people thought Georgia was the best team in the country last season despite missing the playoffs last season. I thought they were the best team in the country, but that was just my opinion. Nick Saban and Alabama was just the team that Georgia just couldn't find a way to beat, and who knows how many more national championships Georgia could have had if they avoided Alabama every season. Georgia could have probably won 4 national championships under Kirby Smart, but that's not the reality, because a majority of the time Georgia would end up playing Alabama in the SEC championship, and Nick Saban was always a step ahead of Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart is actually 1-5 against Nick Saban. But as a lot of us know, Nick Saban just recently retired, and this may just pass over the torch to Kirby Smart. This may just be Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs college football now. Kirby Smart has already won 2 national championships. They have finished undefeated in the regular season 3 seasons in a row now. And I really don't think there is anything that can really stop this team as long as Kirby Smart is the head coach for this Georgia team. Kirby Smart has had a top 3 recruiting class every single season since 2017. And there's been many years where Alabama and Georgia were number 2 and number 1 in the recruiting rankings. Nick Saban is now gone, so right now the obvious king of college football has to be Kirby Smart. I believe the only active head coach who has actually beat Kirby Smart is Hugh Freeze. But that was in Kirby Smart's first season when Georgia had 5 losses. Hugh Freeze was the head coach of Ole Miss that season, but now he is coaching for Auburn. So there are really no active head coaches that have at least recently beat Kirby Smart, and that's crazy to think about. Maybe there's a team that is going to give Georgia a tough time now that Nick Saban is gone. I mean, maybe Kalen DeBoer in Alabama still outplay Georgia going forward. Maybe Steve Sarkisian in Texas is going to be the new top dog in the SEC. We don't know what's going to happen. But if there's one head coach and one team that we can definitely trust, then it has to be Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. I have no doubt that Kirby Smart will continue to recruit at a top 3 level, probably top 2 and even top 1. And it is going to be hard to out-recruit Kirby Smart. The future of Georgia is looking very bright, and I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when they will win more national championships, because it's going to come in my opinion. Definitely if Kirby Smart stays the head coach for a long time. And Georgia is definitely turning out to be the next great dynasty of college football if they continue their success. The new landscape of college football could change a lot. A 12-team playoff and soon-to-be 14-team playoff is going to create for more upsets to happen. There will also be more teams in the SEC, and college football is really changing with the NIL and transfer portal coming along. But so far, Kirby Smart hasn't had a huge problem with the new landscape of college football, and the only thing that has really held him back from winning more national titles was mainly the 5 losses to Alabama. But like I said, Saban is gone, and I still don't know what to expect from Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. That Week 5 game against Alabama is going to be huge for Georgia. Kirby Smart needs to get over the hump of losing to Alabama, and Kalen DeBoer needs to make a statement and show that Alabama is still going to be an elite national title contender. Georgia has a pretty difficult schedule, and they will also have difficult road tests against other teams on the rise like Ole Miss and Texas. I am definitely excited to watch SEC football, but if I had to bet on one team to win the SEC, I would definitely bet on the Georgia Bulldogs. The defense will be elite, and Carson Beck is going to be a top 3 quarterback at the very least, and he might just be the best quarterback in the country. The rushing attack could be dangerous with Travis Etienne and other decent running backs in the backfield. I don't know exactly how the receiving room will look for Georgia, but I know they got guys who could step up, and I know Carson Beck is the type of quarterback to make his receivers a lot better. And this team will be just fine without Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey and some of the other top receivers leaving. They were very deep at receiver last season, and this offense is going to be dangerous in 2024. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Georgia win another national title in 2024. I think they have many more national championships to come as long as Kirby Smart is still the head coach for this team. And by the end of Kirby Smart's career, I have no doubt that Kirby Smart will be one of the greatest college football head coaches of all time if this team could stay near the top. It's going to be hard to surpass the accolades that Nick Saban has had, but honestly, if any active head coach can do it, then I think it could be Kirby Smart. But anyways, you guys let me know how many national championships you think Kirby Smart will have by the end of his coaching career. And if I was to predict a number, I would honestly say around 4 to 6, and I wouldn't be surprised if he passed Nick Saban in national championships and won 7 or 8. Kirby Smart still has a long way to go, but he's off to a great start, and I'm excited to see what the legacy of Kirby Smart and that Georgia Bulldogs team will look like by the end of his coaching career. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel, because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing. And also consider joining my Discord server down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.